Every musician has their own way of learning a new piece. There's no single correct method. But today I want to share the algorithm I use. Before I touch the keys, I usually listen to a couple of recordings while following along with the score, just absorbing. You let the music reach you through your ears, analyze the structure, get the general idea about how it sounds. Not your fingers yet, more like a conductor from the bird's eye perspective. And don't just let it play in the background, listen actively while watching the structure on paper. Now comes the first actual playing session. I sight read through the piece in any tempo I can handle and immediately assign the fingering. Fingering part is crucial. Once I saw the score of one of the most brilliant pianists alive, and I was amazed how meticulously they wrote their fingerings. Even the easiest spots, which can be played by ear with literally no practicing, would have fingers assigned and written down. Fingering is not a detail, it's the road you walk on. Here's a small rule I use. If I catch myself using the wrong fingers, even if I played the right notes but with the wrong fingers, I immediately play it 3 times with the correct fingering. So don't confuse your brain, don't give it a conflicting information, be consistent right from the start. Of course, if I later find a better fingering, I change it by playing a new fingering and not allowing myself to return to the old fingering. But of course, you don't do this last day before the concert. You don't want to change your fingering right before the concert. And of course, you have to be really smart when choosing which fingers to use. You can, of course, look up different editions for fingering suggestions, but it's very personal. And for example, an edition Handle Verlag, which is a great and very reputable, very reliable edition, but their fingering suggestions for some reason are often, well, let's say it mildly, far from optimal. And it's a running joke among many pianists actually. Next, I divide the piece into sections and rank them from easiest to hardest. And then of course I do the unpopular thing, I start with the hardest part. That way, by the time the piece starts feeling familiar, the problem zones are already under control. Then, when you practice, break a section into chunks, 2 bars, for example. And your task to get them right and flowing in any tempo without tension. To find the most efficient way of playing, practice at mezzo forte, with good finger support at the bottom of the key, relaxation in the rest of the arm, in your shoulders, in your neck, and avoid extremes in dynamics while you're still figuring out the movement. And I don't go further until I can play each chunk right, at least twice. In any kind of tempo I can manage today. Then, whenever you finish a chunk, don't stop at a bar line. Always play overlapping into next section, even when it's just one note beyond your current fragment. So, for example, if you learn this second movement from Sonata Facile, in chunks of 2 bars, don't stop at the bar line. Include at least 1 beat or at least 1 note of the next section. And then when you go further, don't stop. Come here. And then you learn the next section right from this beat. So they always have to overlap. Otherwise, you'll build islands with no bridges, and later you'll struggle with transitions. And transitions between bars, between phrases, between sections, is exactly where most mistakes happen. And then each day you extend your chunks a little bit. So today I have a goal of playing just 2 bars, but really well, without mistakes, smoothly. Tomorrow, for example, a chunks of 4 bars already, and then 8 bars. But don't move on until you can play each chunk properly. That means good rhythm, correct fingering, no tension. It's better to cover 10 bars in a day, but do them really right, then fool around the whole piece, but everything stays approximate and with mistakes. As soon as you feel confident with the notes, start playing with emotion. Many people wait until they are done learning before they add expression. That's a mistake. Why? Because cognitive playing and emotional playing use different areas of the brain. If you never practice emotionally, or if you include emotions only too late, your brain won't be ready, and once you start expressing, you'll make more mistakes. So you have to train your brain to activate both zones. It's responsible for cognition and emotion. Many people memorize pieces simply by playing them repeatedly with a score. This tactics works well for some learners, mostly people with absolute pitch and very good memory. But most people don't memorize music very well unless they actively focus on memorization. That's why I recommend training your memory starting as early as day 2 or 3. So as soon as you can play a 2-bar fragment properly with a score, challenge yourself to play it at least once from memory, and then move on to the next chunk. So memorize in small chunks, but do it consistently. The most efficient strategy for me and for most learners is to work on the same piece or section every day for 5-7 days in a row, and then take a break for 3-4 days, for example, working on something else in the meantime. These pauses between intensive sessions are actually very helpful. They allow your brain to process and store what you've learned. Similarly, real mastery of the material comes when you learn a piece over a month or 2, memorize it well, and then allow yourself to forget it completely for a few months. Yes, recovering it will take some time, but when you bring it back, it will sit much deeper in your memory than before. This process, learn, memorize, forget, relearn, builds multiple memory layers, and each return to the piece reinforces these connections. So you're not just relearning pieces which you forgot, you're making it more and more solid. That's how the true mastery works, not by endless repetition, but by allowing time for consolidation. Thank you for watching this, and check my comprehensive courses by following the link in the description. See you next time.